As summer unfolds, the housing, homelessness, and mental health crises continue to worsen in Barrie and Simcoe County. Simcoe County Council recently approved the purchase of a 40-bedroom modular housing facility intended to support individuals experiencing homelessness. The $1.2 million project, planned for a site near Tiffin Street, is expected to serve up to 80 people. While discussing the project, county officials also praised the warming center at 445 Blake Street, a location chosen based on data and its proximity to service providers. However, the site is located on the edge of Barrie and Oro-Medonte, nearly an hour from downtown, where the homeless population is typically concentrated due to access to support services and other resources. Some community members have reflected a disconnect from the needs of those on the ground. Dr. Chown, a primary care physician who works directly with the homeless population, criticized the emphasis on enforcement and remote shelter options. He noted that the downtown shelter, closed before 2024, provided a vital point of contact for many without housing, a gap that remains unfulfilled.
Of course, we all want our communities to be safe. We all want our families to be safe. We all want our friends to be safe. We all want to feel safe when we're out in public. But the problem with this discourse and the narrative that gets put to us is that they're only talking about safety for a privileged section of the population. And they're concerned about the person that's walking through the park, the person that's using the park recreationally, but they're not concerned about the person that's sleeping in the park. And actually, the person that's sleeping in the park is framed as a threat. They're not seen as someone who's deserving of safety. They're seen as someone who's a threat to safety or a danger. That usually they need to be institutionalized in some way or allowed to die. So jail, treatment facilities, shelters, these are institutions that are acceptable places for them to go. Or death is also an acceptable option when you look at the policy that's put forward by politicians.
Canada generates more waste per capita than any other country in the world, and Simcoe County is no exception. With landfills nearing capacity, the urgency to adopt stronger waste diversion services is growing. Penetanguishene Mayor Doug Rawson voiced strong support for expanding organic waste collection, noting that nearly half of local garbage, which is more than 40%, could be diverted through organics.
The facts are, we've talked about at council here, our landfills are full and we got to look at other options, and we're running out of space in our landfills. We've talked about incineration, we've talked about trucking. All those options are huge amounts of dollars, which we haven't put our minds towards. I know I've had the privilege of talking to several students and youth groups in my community, and they've all asked me, what more can we do? And this is one that I know our youth population's asked about. We talk about public education alike, and I know our communities are asking for it. I would argue all of us together here today can do more. I know in my municipality, I'm not proud to state, but we didn't have a green bin in our council chambers, and we talked about it. Now we have it. I think the right thing to do is to support the motion. I know I'm going to today. I think it's the right thing. Most of us have land acknowledgements, and I think about it all the time. What do we do? Are we just reading the words? So I'll tell you our last line in ours. Ours says, we recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters and responsible to ensure that Mother the Earth is here for future generations.
However, Simcoe County decided to defer expanding organic waste collection until the next meeting. The Simcoe County is also facing growing infrastructure challenges. With aging roads, bridges, and public facilities under increasing pressure, the need for a long-term asset management plan has never been more critical. During the meeting, staff presented an updated strategy outlining how the county plans to maintain, fund, and eventually replace its infrastructure assets. According to the report, the total replacement value of county-owned assets is estimated at $2.6 billion. However, if the current investment level continue, the county will face more than $500 million infrastructure funding gap over the next decade. To maintain existing level of service, the plan calls for an average annual investment of more than $80 million, a figure that significantly exceeds current capital funding levels. Roads and bridges make up the largest share of infrastructure needs, followed by buildings, social housing, and waste management facilities. Staff emphasized that without increased and sustained investment, the county risks higher long-term costs, accelerated infrastructure deterioration, and service disruptions. The asset management plan aims to guide responsible decision-making today to ensure infrastructure remains safe, reliable, and financially sustainable for the future. Following is our interview and coverage of the meeting.
The Housing and Homelessness Services We do have the acquisition of modular facilities for unsheltered homelessness response. The GM, Fayez Baguette, is here. This has been a very successful program across our county. I do have a lengthy motion, but I will go to the GM if he has any comments to add. Nothing to add? Okay, he has nothing to add. Is there any questions about the program? Yes, Councillor Snell.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, not a question, but just a comment. At 30,000 per bed, fantastic job. You know, this is going to create long-term solutions that are financially sustainable. And I just wanted to congratulate you and the team. Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you very much. Are there other questions? Yes, Councillor Van Staveren.
Thank you. To the General Manager, those as was just echoed by Councillor Schnell, it is a great price point for installation. Are we looking around the province, around the county, where we'll be able to use these around each community, and are we laying out a guideline? Because I know I had a great chat with you about it's very expensive to install these units, but if we're going to do multiple units elsewhere, let's plan for it. Or can you speak a bit about our location selection?
GM?
Through you, Chair Measures. Thank you for the question, Councillor Van Staveren. Yes, this is our fifth one that we're doing. We've done one in Aurelia, one in Collingwood, as well as this will be the third one we're doing in Barrie. We're constantly looking for opportunities to put them across the county. I think South Simcoe is another focus area for us as well. It depends. As you know, we kind of follow our data and where it tells us we need support and services, and really that drives the factor of where people need services. So once we analyze data and understand where the next one needs to go, that's where we focus on. But we're constantly searching for opportunities. It is the land component that we've been able to successfully partner with different municipalities for that land component, so that really it's just installing the modulars on those plots of land. Yeah.
Thank you, GM. Councillor Fallis.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to reiterate some other council members' thoughts around it being quite the bargain. Really a great bang for the buck in terms of what we're getting out of it. Just curious about further details. Are there other modular units available that are similar in nature? Where did we get this one from? Where would this one maybe be going specifically in Barrie? Any further details you can provide is greatly appreciated. Thanks.
GM?
Through you, Chair Measures. Thank you, Councillor Fallis. Yeah, so this is a different one for us in the sense of its size. It's significantly larger. So if the past four we've done have 14 bedrooms, this has 40. So it has up to a capacity of 60, 70, or 80 people, depending on how we want to occupy it. Over the winter, we've actually focused on locations in Barrie where we ran our warming programs. And one of those locations quite successfully was utilized, and we like its location and its proximity to people who are encamped, as well as proximity to services and agencies like CMHA. So we're looking at the Tiffin location where we did our paramedicine station was located. And we'll continue to work with that landlord to get that installed there. There's some planning components and some permitting factors, but we wanted to secure the actual asset first, and then make sure that we can find a location for it. So I think we're pretty confident it's going to go in the city of Barrie. That's our number one site, but you know, things happen. Hopefully it'll go smoothly, and that's where it'll be located.
Thank you, GM. Councillor Durnford, is that right? Thank you.
That's correct. Thanks. Good morning. Can you just speak to the supportive services that might be offered at the location and whether you have an agency partner for that, and also what the intersection is with the Heart Hub service, if any?
GM, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Measures. Thank you for the question, Councillor Durford. So the agencies, we often, engage with our agency partners on services delivered. I think it depends on the type of service. What we want to do is create more capacity in the overall system. As a system service manager, these beds are available to help ease pressure across all of the county. So the idea here is most likely we look at three ways we can use this space. We can use it for supportive housing with on-site care, rapid rehousing, which also has on-site care 24/7, but it's with a time limit of use, like 180 days to find permanent housing. Or we could use it as just extra capacity in our shelter system through inclement weather, like the winter months and things like that. So depending on the program, I would suspect that we might have three different options of agency partners, with the first two being health focused and the third one being more homelessness support focused. In terms of Heart Hub, the Heart Hub is a separate program. It actually has multiple locations and service factors involved, and it's really a series of referral pathways to different services across the county, primarily focused in the Barrie area. So this would not be connected to that unless someone is successfully passing through their referral pathways through the Heart Hub and is looking for, like, say, supportive housing. If we use it for supportive housing, that may be a location where someone would be placed, but not necessarily tied to the program's first and second step of referral pathways. Just a small plug, on Thursday, we are launching the Heart Hub here with an event. So I encourage everyone to attend, and you'll learn a lot more about how the Heart Hub is going to work. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, GM Fayez-Baguette. Are there any other questions? I'll just like to add that my conversation with the GM also indicated that this would be a budget neutral project. So thank you very much for keeping that in mind. So at this time, I will call for the mover and seconder, perhaps Mr. Van Staveren and Mr. Follis. Would that be okay? Thank you, sir. And that item number CCW 2025-191 dated June 24th, 2025, regarding acquisition of modular facility for unsheltered homelessness response be received. And that the acquisition of the 40-bedroom modular facility for up to $1.2 million, including all site costs, for the purpose of increasing shelter and housing program opportunities for those currently unsheltered within the homelessness sector be approved. And that a combination of the underutilized Reaching Home RH funding, offsetting operating from the Encampment Response Initiative funding, and the Social Services Reserve be utilized for this purchase. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. We're going to move to item 23 underneath Human Services. There's some partnership policy and business intelligence concern here. Mina, I believe you have something you'd like to speak to on this issue too. This is the 2025 Social Community Investment Fund.
Thank you, Chair Measures. So this report is a good news story. It's our social community investment fund that we allocate to different local agency partners, often focusing on funding areas that aren't mandated as a system service manager through federal provincial funding. This is the county trying to fill the gaps on poverty reduction, community safety, well-being, belonging, newcomer services, food security. So really the program, if you recall, was an annual, and we turned it into a multi-year grant. So this is the second portion of the grants that go to microloans or microgrants for smaller projects. And then we'll have a final report sometime in the end of the year, sharing what has happened with the recipients that received the 2-year funding and their outcomes, and versus the shorter term grants and their outcomes. And with that, I just want to introduce our new manager of community partnerships, Sophia Stanbury. So she's the one leading up this project. So if there's any questions, we can take them.
All right, thank you so much, and good explanation. Welcome to the team. I will look to the floor for any questions on this concern. All right, seeing none. How about I look for a mover and seconder then on this important motion? Councillor Schnell and where are we at? Councillor Anderson. Thank you so much. And that would be that item CCW CCW 2025-169 dated June 24th, 2025 regarding the 2025 Social and Community Investment Fund be received, and that the recommended 2025 Social and Community Investment Fund project allocation as outlined in Schedule 1 to item 2025-169 be approved, and that the county clerk and general manager, social and community services, or director designated by the general manager enter into agreements as outlined in item CCW 2025-169. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries. Thank you so much.
We're on item 30.2, which is revisions to the waste subsidy program, and I will turn it over to GM Elliott to introduce the presenters.
Thank you. Report 2 of 3 on our waste program today. This, you might recall that we, as the county, offers a waste subsidy program for some properties. In today's report, we're recommending some modifications to that. So once again, I'm going to ask Director McCullough.
GM Elliott, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We had a declaration of pecuniary interest. Did you want to state the general nature thereof, please, Councillor Bell?
I have several private customers that could be impacted by the decision made by this, and it could be a pecuniary interest, so I'd rather err on the side of caution.
Thankfully, duly noted by the clerk. Sorry, go ahead, GM Elliott.
Thank you. So with that, I was going to introduce Director McCullough once again to speak about some proposed changes that staff have in mind about that subsidy program.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, we actually had both this report and the following report on the organics maximization scheduled for last time council met. So I'm glad it didn't go. It got kicked because of another event that you have. So I'm here today with 3 reports for you. However, I'm glad it did, because the implications of the last report on the multifamily have a huge input on the subsidy report. We had to revise it entirely. Our recommendation to you, now just maybe I should go over the subsidy report for a moment. The subsidy program that council has approved and we've been working with is for every multifamily unit, we provide a subsidy to compensate them for their garbage collection and recycling. As I mentioned in the last report, you will recall that essentially everyone pays for our waste management programs through their general tax levy. That means residents living in multifamily are paying towards that program, but don't really reserve a credit for it, in that only about half of them, 8,000 some odd, we provide that direct service to. So we don't provide a subsidy to those units, they're getting the program. The other 9,000 some odd can apply to, and almost all that do get approved, and they set up their own private recycling program and private garbage collection. We provide a subsidy back to them based on $1 for garbage, $1 for recycling, to every unit per week per year. So essentially up to $100 per unit per year at those multifamily locations. Our recommendation had been stop the recycling portion of it, because now we won't be collecting funds through general taxes to support that recycling anymore in the single family, and that program was going to be set up for their use in the multifamily, so there wouldn't have been any need. We were going to continue the garbage portion because that is continued to be collected through the levy and wouldn't be necessarily fair. So what we've done in this report is essentially provide a continuation of the program as it is for 1 year while we figure out what's going on. Right? This assumes essentially that the province is going to accept the amendments as were reported in the last report and would remove the requirement to provide service for multifamily complexes. If that program is not accepted and it remains as it is, and that service is provided, then there wouldn't be any need for compensation, because we only pay for actual costs. We see the invoices from the waste management companies. We require that they have a recycling program they participate in order to be able to get compensated for both the garbage and the recycling portion. What this program says, what we have recommended here, is that we'll continue it, but essentially now you have to continue to support and have a recycling program, but you also have our compost, our new organics program in each of those multifamily locations in order to get compensated for both the garbage and recycling programs. As such, we turn it back to you, Chair Dolan. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. There are a number of opportunities or options with sub-options that we provided. In the event council doesn't agree with the staff recommendation, we will need to know how you want us to proceed.
Thank you. Questions or comments, amendments on any of them? Seeing no hands. I need a mover and a seconder, please, for the staff recommendation. Moved by Councillor Cox and seconded by Councillor Snell, that item CCW 2025-175 dated June 24th, 2025, regarding revisions to the waste subsidy program be received, and that staff update the waste subsidy program to require participation in organics and recycling diversion, to receive a financial subsidy for privately contracted garbage collection services, and temporarily receive a financial subsidy for privately contracted recycling services as described in option 3B and generally outlined in item CCW 2025-175. Councillor Measures.
Thank you. I would like to just comment on this. I know we discussed this some time ago. I really don't agree with the idea that we are, demanding one to get the other. And so I can't support the resolution, and I can't support the idea that we're going to be changing our program once again, which is confusing our residents. So I feel that that people are using the organics program to the best of their abilities at this time, and I do believe we do need to increase it. And I would encourage and compliment the communications staff here at the county for promoting the idea of expanding the organics program. But I really disagree with the concept that we are going to be forcing persons to do something based on they must do this in order to receive that service. I don't like it. So I simply can't support it, although I acknowledge the staff are dealing with this problem. I don't think by forcing our residents to do it is a resolution, so I'm not supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Measures. So we'll keep those comments for the next item because I think you're speaking to item 30.3.
Yeah, but you read number 175 when you read it, so I wasn't sure.
We haven't voted on it.
I knew we were looking at 188, but you read 175.
We're on 175, but the one you're referring to is the next item 30.3, which is 163.
Very well.
Thank you. So other questions or comments on the subsidy? Councillor Snell.
Thank you, through the chair. Just for clarification, what sort of container are they going to use for the organics, given that a multifamily, could have 10, 12 units in the building?
Director?
The same sort of carts that we see in single family. We are determining whether or not a larger cart would be possible. Therefore, there'd be fewer lifts, but the density and therefore the weight of the organics somewhat constrains that. So we're investigating now. At the very beginning, we may well just use the same 120 liters, but we wouldn't provide one for every unit. Those are big enough probably to do one for every 3 units, but we are working out that from our pilot project that we are able to continue to track and see the right volume. But it would all be a cart-based service. It would be collected by the regular curbside trucks.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Councillor Measures.
Yeah, Chair Dolan, I just want to be clear. You read that it said that the require participation in organics and recycling diversion, correct?
Director McCullough?
And that's correct. The staff recommendation for the waste subsidy. So to be able to receive the money to pay for your garbage and recycling program in multifamily units would require that the complex as a whole participates in the or has program and participates in both organics and recycling. The only addition, they already needed to participate in recycling. We added on the organics portion of it.
So supplemental, and you know, my comment stands for this item as well as the next item, and that is that I feel that we are forcing people to take a service if they don't want the service, that we're forcing them to do it, and I think that is it's not the way to do business like this. So I'm opposed to that ideal. I think that people are honestly across our communities acknowledging and recognizing the value of organics programs and how to, you know, divert their waste from their garbage systems into their organics. And as I said many months ago, people are still doing composting in their backyards. So I think that this is I just can't support it in this recommendation that's forcing them to do it. I think that, you know, first of all, reducing the fee to allow them to deliver it is a great idea coming up in the next item. But the point is still, we're still making a decision here that we're saying you cannot have recycling, you cannot have garbage unless you participate in organics. You can't support it.
So I agree. I totally understand your sentiment. This is multi-residential, so no place to have really compost. But also, this is saying we're not going to give you money to participate in a program unless you participate in a program. So it's not really asking people. It's not forcing people to do something. They don't have to do it, but then we won't give them money if they don't do it. That's how. Am I saying that right, Director? Okay, Councillor Belanger.
Yes. If you look at it the other way, in a multi-residential unit, if there's residents that want to put their into the green bins, if they're not provided, then you're also forcing them not to recycle their organics. So even if 10 out of 60 people are using the green bins in a multi-unit, that would qualify for that whole multi-unit building to be participating as staff is recommending. That makes perfect sense.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you, Councillor Hamlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, do we have an idea of how many of these multi-unit buildings could accommodate composting bins?
Director McCullough?
And I should just clarify, I personally live in a 45-unit townhouse complex. I know ours doesn't, you know, we don't have space for composting. So I'm just wondering, has any analysis been done? Do we know if this is a practical approach? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, we feel that every multifamily location has the opportunity. They may have to give up a parking spot, a visitor's parking spot, somewhere just to park the carts that we're going to provide. They probably have to push it out to the curb every week where we can actually service them from. But it is possible, we believe, in all locations. Our pilot program we picked a huge variety of different types of units. We used some of even of the county's subsidized housing units. We were able to make that work in everyone that requested it. We will work with the complex owners or their management staff to try and set that up and what makes the most sense at each location.
Oh, sorry, follow up, please.
Go ahead.
So in our, you know, and we're not the only one in this situation. I just give as an example. There's an underground garage where all the garbage is kept with the units. So that's why I know there's no room down there, because I can see there's not even enough room to do the recycling properly. And I'm also wondering, you know, we're told that our private collector of our garbage and recycling. They won't do compost pickup. Do we have a sense of who will do this collection in those situations? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, it is our Miller Waste, our contracted service that's going to be providing that. We will be doing that with our trucks that are picking up from the single family streets. We'll be doing it at the front where each multifamily touches the street, just like it's being done in single family. The multifamily complexes will have to have someone pushing those. I was in Whistler just 2 years ago, and they had all their organics bins right beside their garbage in the underground parking. All the garbage bins needed to be trailered up to the street, and all the organic bins, the carts, just like we're talking about using, were pushed up to the street every servicing day.
Thank you. I just know that won't work in some of the buildings in Collingwood. We have steep ramps and there's nobody's going to be out down there pushing bins up the ramp. But anyway, thanks for your comments.
Other questions and comments on that we're still on the revisions to the waste subsidy program? And did I get a mover and a seconder? I did. Okay, thank you. So I see no other comments. All in favor of the recommendation? Those opposed? 1 opposed, 2 opposed. Thank you. 3 opposed. That's carried. Next, we'll move on to item 30.3, and this is the program to increase organics capture. And we're going to have a presentation, I believe, from Rob McCullard and from Laura Barrett, Manager of Collections. And I do want to point out here again, as I did in the other one, that there is in confidential item 36.2, information related to this report. So if anybody wants to discuss that particular report, please let it be known, and we'll go into in camera to have that discussion. Thank you. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Chair Dolan, and I'll just, we brought in some outside help today. So I'd like to introduce very briefly to you, maybe more later, Susan Antler, who's actually a county resident and head of the Compost Council of Canada. She's the executive director. She's from Utopia and ESSA, and I believe knows Mayor McDonald. And so she actually does have a piece to do in this report as well. So why are we here? We keep coming back, don't we? You asked for it this time. We brought a report in February of this year that showed the results of our waste audits, and also recommended if we wanted to look at increased organics capture, because as you recall, our organics capture rate is 54%. That's quite an improvement. When we went to every other week collection, we jumped up from high 30s, 38, 39% to 54%. But we've got a long, that means essentially that we've got 46% that's not being captured. Where is it? It's in the garbage. Recycling, we have an 85% capture rate. I don't know that we'll get there immediately on organics, but we need to shoot for the stars here, because we believe that organics has a bigger environmental impact than recycling by far. Because in a landfill site, let's see if I can get that on. In a landfill site, we have significant environmental impact from the degradation within the site, because it's without oxygen. So the microbes that work on it are called anaerobic, without the presence of oxygen. They produce methane, which is at a minimum 25 times worse than CO2. In fact, many studies show in a short term, it's probably higher, around 70 to 80 times more harmful than CO2. We also know that our landfills are reaching capacity in just a short couple of years. We know that it's not as great in incineration as opposed to landfill. Landfill, most waste in Ontario is going to landfill. As you know, our long-term strategy has accepted a 20-plus year process to take our garbage to incinerator when our landfills are closed, and that's happening very soon. It's not a great, while there is some BTU value in organics, the amount of heat that it takes to drive off the moisture in organics makes it next to useless and requires a higher residence time, so it slows things down. They would prefer, the company that we're dealing with would rather see more organics out of the system. In fact, they've often liked our material because it does have less organics than most of the other materials they deal with. And with that, I'm going to turn it over quickly to Susan Antler, who is, as I mentioned before, the Executive Director of the Compost Council of Ontario, a resident of Utopia in Essa Township. And you will recall, I don't know if I've got, yes. She's also the author of this Apple Core book that we provided to all council just a couple of months ago. And we use it in our school education program all the time. In fact, we completely retooled it and basically use this as one of the principal issues as we go forward. So with that, Susan, you've become a very good friend of the department, and we're happy to have some comments from you.
Well, thank you very much. I feel like I'm at home because you are guiding the County of Simcoe. And I am so honored to have a home in Utopia. I'm also the chair of the Friends of the Utopia Mill and Park, and we defended and conserved the Utopia Conservation Area. And we have the Utopia Hall, which is a center of community activity, and the Utopia Farmland, which is a 46-acre piece of farmland beside the hall, where we're taking it from synthetic fertilizer to soil health practices. So I apologize if I don't talk with you with the names of the warden and chair, because you basically are my neighbors. And I want to talk with you about that. And it comes down to, unfortunately for organics, we are in the world of waste management. Unfortunately, we always get tied into the blue box and the garbage bin. But the reality is that this is the cycle of life that we're dealing with, returning organic matter back to the soil. And it's only been the last couple of generations where we've stopped that natural process. From that first apple core that those two people moved from paradise to what we have right now, nature has been recycling our organics. And so I am one of the co-founders of the Compost Council of Canada. It's a 1991 nonprofit national organization. And at that time, we were focused on waste. And it made perfect sense because, like the Simcoe cart here, in terms of waste is there, and it shouldn't be. It should be respected. Every element of the cart should be respected. And if you truly believe in waste diversion, 46% of the materials in County of Simcoe are organics. And quite honestly, if politics didn't get into the game, the first things that you would do if you believed in waste diversion was focus on organics. But we've always had to take second seat to the blue box. And the blue box really is only 9%. So all the time you've all been spending on waste management, you're really focusing on perhaps not the priority, and that is the organics. But the reality is that organics is much more than just waste. And that's why someone like myself has stayed into the game, because it's really magic, because it's not about waste, it's about the soil. And so this is the look of the soil in the underground, and we really depend on those 6 inches around the world from which the topsoil allows us to eat. And so that topsoil needs organic matter. And where do they get that organic matter? They get it from the fallen leaves that many scrape up and don't regard, and the food waste. Now, there shouldn't be any food waste, but the reality is that banana that comes into the store and that you pick up, 30% of that banana is the packaging, and that's that peel. And that 30%, unless, like the book says, unless you have a goat or a pig in the neighborhood or you want to shine your shoes, likely it's going to be a choice. Are you going to put it in the garbage, or are you going to put it in a compost bin? Backyard, large scale, at work, at play. So it really comes down to more than just waste. Why do we recycle organics? Absolutely, landfill diversion. But now, 30 years later, you know, we've gone from the years, I wrote articles in the early 2000s, you know, that was a time when it was a real question as to whether we believed in climate change. Was it really true? You know, Friday in Utopia, it was blowing. I was worried about the hummingbirds. Were they able to get to their nest? Huge blowstorm on Friday, sunshine on Saturday, and heat now. So in terms of when it comes down to known places where we're creating greenhouse gases, unquestionably, particularly in the county of Simcoe, where we need transport, we need cars, there needs to be a transition. It's not an urban setting like we know from other GTHA areas. But in terms of something is absolutely a hopeful thing that everyone can do is to recycle their organics, because landfills are the #2 source of methane emissions in Canada. And methane is 86 times as nasty as carbon dioxide. And it doesn't take an $100,000 investment in a car. It takes acting with the infrastructure that the County of Simcoe has provided us as a citizen to put those organics in the right bin. And by putting those organics in the green bin, we avoid methane. And even if you say that there's captures on the methane in the landfill, they only catch 60%. It's resource conservation, and it really comes down to soil. And that's what County of Simcoe is all about. We are proudly an agricultural area still. And it's really for our soils and for life on planet Earth. The water quality, in terms of if we have good structured soil, the water stays. It's drought insurance. We have farmers across Canada. I'll show you one of the videos. One of the farmers in New Brunswick, he composted his manure. He was the only one in the area that put compost around his apple orchard trees. And he was the only, during a drought condition year, he was the only farmer that had a crop, because it retained the moisture for about 2 weeks. It allowed some time to get to the next rainfall. Biodiversity protection, 57% or so of the critters in the world, not the deer, not the raccoons, but the critters in the soil, with the earthworm being the king, depend on the food of the soil to live. And they return that favor in terms of providing the relationship with the soil to the plants to allow our crops to grow, and healthier nutrient-dense food. This one, I thought, once we got a resort, we had the City of Brandon, 5 years, and we put compost on 4 crops, beans, carrots, beets, and lettuce. Every year compost, every other year compost, no compost. And it spiked. It spiked. First of all, it takes time for the soil to heal, but then it comes back into force because the microbes are there in quantity, and the nutritional value. The carrot that we're eating now is not the carrot of 50 years ago in terms of the nutritional quality. And recently, I'm not sure, Senator Rob Black has published Critical Ground, and that has now been followed up about 2 weeks ago with a bill at the Senate to go ahead and say we need a national soil health strategy. So yes, absolutely, the organics are part of your waste management discussion, but organics are also should be part of your public health discussion, your resource, and what do we stand for in terms of this community. And so really, this is 2 shovelfuls of good soil, bad soil. The one, well, you can tell which one has got organic matter in, and the other one that's clumpy. In terms of when the water falls, with the organic matter being in the soil, it'll act like a sponge, it'll hold. If it's clumpy, it'll just drain off. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says that our farmers the nitrogen that they use, 50%, if the soil is not healthy, 50% of the nitrogen blows off. as soon as you put it on. And so that goes into our waterways. You can see that in Holland Marsh now. You can go ahead and see that everywhere in terms of algae blooms. It's more than just waste management. And so these are some, this is below you can see the visible differences between the vegetable crops. And the bottom, that's the city of Brandon. There's source separated organics, all what we do in County of Simcoe. The picture above that is 2 weeks application. After 2 weeks application, you can figure out which side the compost did their job on. And then this is a picture in Utopia where we have a citizen science project where we're putting compost on that 46 acre in different formats, because if we were to compost everything, and right now we're at 5 million tons in Canada, more than what recycling would ever achieve, 5 million, but we're only at a third. And quite honestly, it's a third. I thought we would get it done in 5 years. If it's waste diversion and it's 46%, then you go after the organics. Anyways, this is what we're really doing a lot of tests on this. Love you to come over. And we've got labs tests and the like to see how the soil is changing. This cropland has been farmed with synthetic fertilizer for over 40 years. We have some citizen science. So every year we have 21 sites that are GPS managed. And we go back to the same spot and we look at different ways, do-it-yourself tests. And this test is an earthworm count, because if the earthworm's there, then everything is there in terms of those microbes. And so we find where those GPS places are. We dig a shovelful of soil, put it on a tarp, and count the earthworms. In the first year in these 21, a healthy shovelful of soil should have 6 to 10 earthworms. So 21 should be 150 to over 200 earthworms in that mix. In the 40 years synthetic fertilizer, the first year, 21 sites, not 150, not 200, we found 5 earthworms. 5 earthworms and 4 of them were together. 1 application of compost, the next year we found 55. Next year, we found over 100. And the farmer said for the first time in decades, the seagulls were following him at the harvest because they obviously, seagulls don't waste their time, and they found the earthworms. So it comes down to, this is more than a waste management discussion. This comes down to the health of our soil and the health of our people. The greenhouse gas value of composting, you can see all these numbers. I don't even understand some of them, but the reality is if you take organics out of landfill, there's a methane reduction. And if you put compost in the soil, there's a carbon sequestration value. And that equivalent in terms of 1 bag of compost, which it could be $3.99, 1 little bag of compost represents 30 kilometers of car driving offsets. And if you go to 1 ton, almost 3,000 kilometers. And I guess the issue for me, because I feel myself very lucky to be able to work on this issue, because then I'm not fretting. I fret about the condition of our world, but at least I'm able to express my concerns. But I think that compost provides hope for our community. And it's something everyone can do. It's not going to be a $100,000 switch in the car. It's using the right bin that they have because the County of Simcoe gave it to them. This is, we went across Canada to talk to farmers who are pretty much addressing soil health on a voluntary basis. The long term, our farmers soil should be considered a resource for Canada. Farmers should be receiving credits, money for putting soil health practices to work. And providing another revenue stream. Farmers are not getting the money that they deserve for their crops, and the soil should be included in that crop. This is a farmer from Southern Ontario, Randy Dykstra, and I just wanted to kind of end with this.
And I think what really hit me is the amount of life in the soil, right? We take it for granted. We don't see it. It's microscopic. from microscopic to the worms, right? And I can walk out here, and it's probably my favorite time of day to walk out here just when the sun is going down and the worms are coming up to the ground, and you'll walk and you almost can't see them, but you hear them. You hear their little as they go back into their hole. And it's just amazing. And there's thousands of them. You can't walk without stepping on a worm, right? And if you watch carefully, you can see them grab a little piece of this cornstalk. You can see them wrap around the end of this and they'll pull it down into the ground, right? And that's feeding our soil. That's feeding our soil life. And all those pores from those worms create natural drainage, and all the fungi in the soil are connected. I even read a book once, I don't know if it's true or not, that literally every plant on the earth is connected by mycorrhizal fungi, right? And if you do dig, you see these tiny little, almost like spider webs of fungi. And they're everywhere, right? And what happens when you till that? You destroy it, right? It is torn apart. One speaker said it was like a forest fire, a tornado, and a volcano all at the same time going through a town. And you look at that and you go, yeah, that creatures in the soil are my friends, right? They compost this residue. They bring it down. They feed my plants. It's a big picture thing.
So basically, I want to thank you for being the leaders of our county. It means an awful lot to me to be, and that I'm very proud to live here, and learned a lot from the residents who've been here a long time and who remember when everyone composted. It all starts with you. We celebrate Compost Week. It's now a worldwide party. And it really comes down to it's recycling, absolutely waste diversion, but it means less greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, and using compost feeds the soil. And our soils return this kindness with healthier food, cleaner water, richer biodiversity, and a calmer climate. Thank you for doing your best.
Thank you very much, Ms. Antler, much appreciated. And I'll just say, if you ever have the opportunity to rent the Utopia Hall, you won't get much work done because this waft of smell of homemade bread coming from the other room is enough to distract anyone. Go ahead, Director McCullough.
Thank you. Since we met in February, one of the council comments was, have we asked the people why they're not participating in organics? And so we actually did do that. We had a really good group to be able to look at, given that we had to track those for the survey. And we actually went out and met with, I believe it was 90 different residents representing 90 different homes at least, in door-to-door visits, and asked why they, why they weren't using their green cart. And you can see essentially the majority of them basically put it all in the garbage. 23% of them said they had a backyard composter, and 6% had other various reasons, as you can imagine. Residents were either unaware of what can go in the green cart or choose to put items in the garbage. Residents who already use the backyard composter seem to have an unconscious bias, we felt, when promotion and education on the organics program is believed not to apply to them because they are already doing the right thing. And don't take anything in this presentation to say that we're against backyard composting. We're for it. In fact, we wish more people would use the backyard composter. That's fewer tons that we have to actually pay for processing outside the county. And those residents get the very valuable use of that compost once they've made it themselves in the backyard. But we believe those people that do use their backyard composter mean well and want to do the right thing, but are still placing more items in the garbage than they really ought to be. Some individual comments we received in that study: it's fine to throw waste in the garbage, I really don't care about it. They're lazy, they know it, and they should do it. There's no barriers, it's just a personal choice not to participate. Didn't know that paper products could go in and might start using it. It's too much work to use, doesn't produce a lot of waste. doesn't want to have raccoons or clean up the mess of the bin, and it's fine for it to fill up the landfills. So those were sort of the comments we received. Now, you will recall before this is the second time I think we've attached this chart. The first column, this is available to you in Schedule 1. The first column is our Simcoe curbside program, and you can see all the white. Essentially, we accept all those materials. But when you look at there's many different ways to look at backyard composting. There's a green cone backyard composter. There's systems like loamy, we added pigs, vermicomposting, which is worms, food cycler, and a tumbling composter. And we looked at all the materials that they recommend to go in. The red is for things that aren't accepted. So the things that a backyard composter could still put in the curbside program, and we don't want to discourage them from taking the things that they are putting in right now, but things that shouldn't go in your backyard composter that should go in our program include dairy products, greases and fats, meat, fish, bones, nuts and shells, cooked food, paper and microwave popcorn bags, paper bags, paper takeout and greasy pizza boxes, paper cups and plates, paper towels and tissues, egg cartons, the paper kind at least, cold wood ashes, dryer lint, popsicle sticks and toothpicks, sawdust, small dead animals, and pet waste. There's a lot of volume in that. Essentially what we've looked at is about 58%, so slightly over 50% of the material that we produce. And this isn't just looking at the types of items. This is putting the typical weight that a household proposes. About 58% could go in the backyard composter, leaving 42% that we could still take curbside. And with that, the report provides some options, and Laura Barrett's going to take you through them.
As we said in February, we were going to come back to you with options. We did have some work to do with respect to a request for proposal on one of the options. So we waited till we completed that before coming back to you. So out of these, there's 6 options, one of which we'll outline as obviously staff's recommendation. The first option, which we have come to council with previously, we continue to recommend that we implement a program where you will only receive garbage collection if you put your organics out. This means a resident would have to put out once every 2 weeks, just on their garbage week. So that's 26 times a year. We recognize that there may be some resistance from residents. As Rob had indicated in our survey, there's people that just don't want to use the organics. However, we also recognize from Susan Antler the importance of using organics, and any kind of policy change we make is when we see the biggest increase in organics, and that was most evident when we moved to biweekly collection. So this program is we recommend implementing a soft launch first in November. So for a month, we would have the collection contractor, have some staff go around, put some cart hangers. We use those to educate residents that maybe aren't doing something right, but use a cart hanger to say, hey, just so you know, that we will require you to use your organics cart. And here's a bunch of items that go in, and do a little bit of education first. And then as of December 1st, the requirement would be that if there's no organics cart out, that they would not get their garbage collected. We note that there is no annual cost to this. Miller Waste is required to stop at every location that has an organics cart, so they don't need, their contract doesn't change. There will be a one-time cost. So there's 2 things with that. One is obviously a promotion education. We want to make sure that everyone is well aware of any changes. So that is part of that cost. The other cost is, we believe, while every resident did receive an organics cart back when we established the cart program in 2021, we do believe that some people have either, using it for something else. They've returned it to one of our sites. They've lost it, that sort of thing. So they may not have one. We are recommending that we reduce the delivery fee by half for a period of time from October to December. And so the cost of those organics carts additional, we'd obviously have to order some additional organics carts to service residents. This program, option one, has, we believe, the greatest potential to increase our organics capture rate. We have tried to do some estimates, and we believe between 10 and 20% we will see an increase of. So it is fairly cost efficient, and we believe that we would be able to see that increase in organics capture. Option two, this is the one where we had to wait for a RFP. The results of that RFP are in the confidential schedule, and we essentially what we are looking to do is provide a targeted promotion and education program. What that means is that the truck would drive down the road and would be able to identify, using the technology that we procured through the RFP, the technology would be able to say 123 Anywhere Street participated on June 1st, June 7th, but not on June 14th. So we'd be able to kind of create a waste profile, because we understand that maybe some people don't participate every week, they participate every other week. Maybe when it's full, they put it out. So we wanted to identify, if we're going to target some education to those that don't participate or those that seldom participate, we need that information. And as you can imagine, with 150,000 serviced units, having some sort of technology that can do that automatically as opposed to boots on the ground, that is the way that we would be able to do it with this technology. So the potential for increasing organics, again, once we have identified those locations that aren't participating or seldom participating, we would provide them with some sort of direct education. Hey, 123 Anywhere Street, we noticed that you didn't participate in organics. Maybe it's because you have a backyard composter. Well, here's some other items that can go in. Maybe it's because you were away on vacation. You know, those kind of things that, you know, understand that life happens, and we may not participate every single week, but maybe every other. The other piece would be the estimate to the increase in organics wouldn't be as high as if we said, we would really like you to use your organics card if you want your garbage collected, because we're just asking them to. So, hey, can you, here, we've noticed you are, can you please participate? Here's the benefits, here's the costs of, you know, not participating with respect to environmental impacts, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, they have a choice. They can still choose not to use their organics card. As part of the confidential report, it does outline the cost for this. The cost for the technology did come back quite high, and that's something that you can review through that confidential report. Option three, so something that we've kind of put our mind to is we do have bylaw officers. Our bylaw officers do not typically, and they actually don't, and they never really, very seldom, if not ever, have issued a set fine. In our bylaw, it does have a set fine for not diverting. So having divertible material in your garbage. We haven't ever issued that set fine, but this could be an option to do so. It would require additional staff, so we'd have to monitor. If you can imagine, you know, we are always of the opinion that we want to educate first and then continue. So educate first to say, hey, you had organics in the garbage, or even recycling in the garbage for that matter. Please ensure that you divert these. So it would be an education first. If they continued, then we could potentially issue a set fine. Currently in the current bylaw, the set fine is $150. If this is something that council would like to pursue as far as enforcement goes, we would suggest actually having kind of a graduated enforcement. So potentially the first offense is $50, the second offense is $100, the third $150. We'd likely have to come back to council with respect to that bylaw change, because that is a significant change in our bylaw in order to move forward with this option. And the annual cost for this, we believe we'd at first definitely need additional staff, so temporarily. As the program goes on and residents get more used to it, maybe we might not need as much. So we would, for the first year at least, recommend 4 staff with 4 vehicles at a cost of $650,000. We'd come back to council with the results of that first year of enforcement to say, this is what we did, how many residents. We don't know whether or not our bylaw enforcement will be able to visit every single serviced unit that didn't participate in organics or diversion within 1 year. It's difficult to say how long that will take, so that would have to be evaluated in a pilot for the first year, and then we'd come back to council. Option 4 is promotion education to the whole county. So as February, we came back to you and we said, hey, we did a promotion education campaign, but our communications group has said, hey, if we do a survey first, we can maybe identify some barriers that a lot of residents have, or some different issues that, say, an urban setting versus a rural setting has, or if age plays a factor, or demographics plays a factor, and then take the results of a survey in order and make a campaign after evaluating that survey. We don't feel that we would get too far again with respect to communications. You're asking people to. We have kind of shown that asking people to doesn't always produce a result. Maybe with a little bit more, we might get a little bit. We think that it would be fairly low potential increase to organics capture. However, that's the least impact to residents. We're just saying, hey, would you do it? And hope that they would listen to the messaging that we send out. The cost would be a one-time cost. However, it doesn't really have any longevity to it. You do a campaign, it lasts for a certain amount of time. Maybe we convert some people, but then likely it would backslide again unless we decided to do another campaign. So depending on the results of the survey would be dependent on what we would do for the strategy for the campaign, and the cost would be between $380,000 to $570,000 as a one-time cost. Another option we looked at to evaluate is garbage every 4 weeks. When we went to garbage every 2 weeks, we saw a 38% increase in organics capture. So potential that if we moved to garbage every 4 weeks, that would also increase the amount of organics. We believe that it could potentially increase organics capture from 5 to 15%. However, obviously this is a decrease in service level, and we would likely have resistance from residents. Could also encourage garbage in the organics, and potential more people going to the waste facility to bring their waste there. And the costs associated with this would need to be negotiated with our contractor. So we are suggesting a small pilot on that with about 4 trucks before we would implement to the whole fleet, because it's a significant service difference for our contractor. They obviously already have the number of trucks needed to service the way we service with every other week. So we'd have to come back if this was the option that council decided to go with respect to going back to the contractor and finding out what costs. And we would suggest full implementation likely is more viable when we change collection contracts, and that's not until 2030. And then option 6 is status quo. So status quo is obviously what we currently do, and I think we have a great program. We do a lot of promotion education. You've probably seen Max and Gus, our fun raccoon characters, who really promote the organics program. We have an excellent school program. We've really partnered with the Compost Council in their book and created an amazing workshop that we're going into classrooms, teaching kids why we do organics and really encouraging the school boards to get every school on board using their organics. We also do proactive resident engagement. So our bylaw officers are out there every single day. They see something, they'll knock on a door, or they do random spot checks sometimes. So they'll check on something and they'll educate. So we do have that out there. Unfortunately, we do status quo. Obviously, there's no increase in organics capture, and obviously status quo means there's no additional costs either. So what's our recommendation? I'm sure you can read my mind and know where we're going to go with this. Our recommendation, solid waste management staff would recommend that we we collect garbage and organics at the same time. So if you don't have your organics cart, we don't collect your garbage. We have proven that policy does increase organics capture. There's no additional annual cost. There's a one-time cost with respect to promotion, education, and the carts. But it really does have the highest potential to increase the organics capture for the at the curb. And we really want to get that material out of the garbage cart and into the green cart. Organics cart would just go out every other week. It still does get collected weekly. So even if someone isn't adamant and it's really hot outside, and obviously in the summertime, most people use it every single week because they want to get that material out of their house. Organics will continue to be collected weekly, but the requirement would only be every other week. We would reduce the delivery fee of the organics cart for a short period of time for anybody that didn't have the organics cart. And as I had already outlined, we would do a soft start for November 1st with full implementation December 1st. So the recommendation as written is there. And after that, we just have an opportunity for questions. And I'll turn it to you, Chair Dolan.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? I'll get my list ready. Okay. And we'll start with Councillor Rawson.
Had to look at my name. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Rob and Laura, for the presentation. I appreciate your leadership and perseverance on this topic. I was hopeful we would have accepted this last time we were here, but here we are today for round two. I would just want to look at the facts. And I appreciate the options you listed today. The facts are, we've talked about at council here, our landfills are full and we got to look at other options, and we're running out of space in our landfills. We've talked about incineration, we've talked about trucking. All those options are huge amounts of dollars, which we haven't put our minds towards. I know I've had the privilege of talking to several students and youth groups in my community, and they've all asked me, what more can we do? And this is one that I know our youth populations ask about. We talk about public education alike, and I know our communities are asking for it. I would argue all of us together here today can do more. I know in my municipality, I'm not proud to state, but we didn't have a green bin in our council chambers, and we talked about it. Now we have it. I've been to many of the arenas in this community and in the county. Most of our arenas, we're putting our Tim's cups in the garbage. I think we can do more diversion in our local sense. I think there's more we can do. I think the easy thing is the status quo that was brought forward. I think that's the easy thing. I think we want to stand up and be leaders and demonstrate what we can do. Option one's the right thing to do. I love the facts that you did, and I know we asked that you did some of the research and you came back today, but the 46.4% of the organic materials in garbage, nearly half of our garbage can be diverted into organics. That's a fact. I think we asked for that and you brought it back. We asked about more education and it generated less than 2%. So I think that's a fact and I appreciate that. I also appreciated the 25% of the people that are not participating in the program right now are putting their waste into garbage. And Rob, I appreciated the slide that you shared today about the poll you did, about 100 people you polled about that. 71% of them say that organic material goes in their garbage. 23% of the people that had backyard composters didn't realize what could go in the green bin, and that those materials could have been diverted. So I appreciate you highlighting that for us as well. And the other piece that really highlights for me is there's no cost. We're already paying for this. Why wouldn't we just do the easy thing and tell people put it in your green bin? I've been advocating for this. I probably said it 6 times in our council since last time we did it to the community. Most people just aren't aware. And I think the more I talk to people, more people are actually saying, when are we going to bring this forward? I'm going to end with this. I think the right thing to do is to support the motion. I know I'm going to today. I think it's the right thing. Most of us have land acknowledgements, and I think about it all the time. What do we do? Are we just reading the words? So I'll tell you our last line in ours. Ours says, we recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters and responsible to ensure that Mother the Earth is here for future generations.
Moving on to performance management under finance. This is with regards to our 2025 asset management plan. And we're going to have a presentation today from Savannah Hargraves, our supervisor of accounting, capital assets and corporate asset management. Before we go there, I'll direct it to GM Wilcox. Any comments and introduction, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Council, this is an update to our asset management plan in line with the provincial regulations. This will bring us in compliance with all of those regulations and set us up for a good asset management plan. This presentation kicks off the two items that are there, the asset management plan itself, which Savannah will go through in terms of the components that are being updated, and also the asset management reserves, with the idea that we will have appropriate reserves set up so that you'll see in our budgets going forward, things like replacements of vehicles will actually be funded from those asset management reserves, because that's what we've been essentially doing. We've been putting money away for replacement and upgrade of those assets. So that will be in line with that, and that'll be a good thing going forward. So with that, I'll ask Savannah to give us a bit of an update, and then we can take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity here to present an update on our 2025 asset management plan. What I'd like to do is, first of all, go over some of the key or significant changes that we've seen since the 2024 asset management plan that was approved last year. Then we'll get into an overview of our current state of our assets and our levels of service. From there, we'll go into our 10-year capital asset management expenses, funding, and our infrastructure funding gap. We'll look at the strategies that we utilize to close that infrastructure funding gap and finish off, as Trevor mentioned, our proposal on asset management reserves. So before I go into the details and update of our asset management plan, I did want to highlight Ontario Regulation 58817, which really is that driving force here, placing additional emphasis on asset management planning at the municipal level. It came into effect, as we know, in 2018, had a phased implementation approach, and we are now left with one deadline, the July 1st, 2025 deadline, which is to have an asset management plan detailing all of our assets at the proposed level of service with a financial strategy. Beyond the July 1st deadline, it is expected that we have ongoing reviews and updates to our asset management plan, as well as our asset management policy, at least every 5 years. So looking at some of the significant changes that we did see over the last year, since we previously approved the 24 asset management plan, we've updated asset replacement costs on a number of assets. We've further implemented additional assets into our asset management system and added additional asset detail for further analysis on it. With that, we've updated our asset management requirements based on that most available data and our proposed levels of service. Following that, we've updated our available revenue sources to support those 10-year asset management expenses, and we've completed a financial strategy outlining how we can close our infrastructure funding gap. Now, the current state of infrastructure as per OREG does require us to detail all of the inventory count, the unit of measures, the replacement cost, the condition, and the asset age of each of our asset categories. As you can see from the table here, we've detailed the asset categories and the current inventory, unit of measure, and the replacement cost of our asset categories. We currently have assets, county-owned assets, with a current replacement cost of almost $5 billion. Just highlighting three of the key areas that make up over 90% of this replacement cost. We have our road segments that have a total inventory of 1,836 lane kilometers with nearly $2.3 billion as a replacement cost. We have 208 structures, which are our bridges and our structural culverts, with a total replacement cost of $837 million. And our facilities, our team here manages over 2.8 million square feet of facility space with a total replacement cost of $1.5 billion. Then looking at our condition. When we speak to condition, we can either have a physical assessed condition, which we currently have on our road segments. We have annual pavement condition inspections that are performed yearly by our internal staff. On our bridges and our structural culverts, we are legislated to have bridge condition inspections performed by external consultants on an every 2-year rotating basis. So 50% of our inventory in year 1, the other 50% in year 2, and that alternates. When we look at our facility components, we have some external building condition assessments done on some of our assets, as well as internal staff assessments. Then in lieu of an actual physical condition assessment, we have an age-based condition allocation where we look at the in-service date of our asset and the useful life of that asset.
Our asset management system performs that calculation for us. We have that on our fleet and heavy equipment, our computer hardware, software, all of our other smaller machinery and equipment, as well as any facility or airport assets that have not been physically assessed. So these two pie charts here show you that allocation of our condition, whether it's assessed or age-based. The one on the left shows it by count. So when we're thinking about that, we have one pickup truck is equivalent to one bridge. The one on the right proportions it based on replacement cost. That bridge has a significantly higher replacement cost. Therefore, its weighting is higher, which is why we do see a higher proportion of our assets in that right in good to very good. That is driven by our core infrastructure having a good to very good condition rating, which aligns with our current level of service and level of service targets. That does lead me into the next section of levels of service. And we know that the service levels, they support our strategic goals. They quantify how well an asset or service is meeting expectations. They can be based on community values, expected asset performance, strategic and corporate master plans, the financial capacity of the county to actually deliver those levels of service, and of course, legislative requirements. Now, the asset management plan itself does detail all of the level of service metrics that we have by asset class. For this presentation, I've really just highlighted one key one by asset class. I will only highlight or speak to a few of them here, but I will start with the roads. So the roads, we have pavement condition index that is included in the OREG. It's legislated to be in there. Our level of service target was previously approved by council to maintain an average PCI of 75 or greater. Now, as you will see in a couple slides from now, based on trying to close that infrastructure funding gap, we are recommending that we lower that level of service target from 75 to 73. And our current performance, we're currently at 81.15. For our facilities, we have the facility condition index. What that looks at is it takes the next 10 years, the total repair, renewal, rehabilitation, replacement cost, divides that by the total cost of our facilities. And our target would be to maintain facilities with an average FCI of fair or better. We're currently at fair. Fleet and heavy equipment, one of the key level service metrics we have is the risk rating, and risk rating incorporates a number of different components. It incorporates that age-based condition, the service life remaining, our life-to-date repair and maintenance costs, the total odometer or hour readings on it. And our target would be to maintain an average risk rating of medium or better. We're currently at medium low. So then getting into our 10-year capital asset management expenses funding and our infrastructure funding gap. As you will see from the table here, there's a preliminary 10-year capital asset management expense requirement of $533 million over the 2025 to 2034 time period. That is supported by current known revenue, external contributions such as service partner contributions, CCBF, and OSIF, just to name a few, as well as current internal existing asset management reserve transfers of $405.6 million. That leaves us with a preliminary infrastructure funding gap of $127 million. Now, these 6 strategies are the strategies that we looked at in order to reduce or close that infrastructure funding gap. We reviewed any uncommitted balances of existing reserves. We looked at the redirection of current annual non-asset management reserve transfers to specifically then support going forward asset management expenses, lowering our level of service targets, increasing the taxation levy over time to support asset management, using debt for long-term assets such as our bridges and our culvert replacements, or advocating for funding to upper levels of government. Now, this here shows that we did use a combination of those strategies to reduce that infrastructure funding gap. We're proposing to use $30 million of uncommitted reserve balances to support our asset management expenses, doing the redirection of existing annual transfers to now be specifically supporting asset management expenses. We'll add an additional $33.3 million of revenue over the 10-year period. And as I noted earlier, in a couple different areas, we have level of service reductions. So in the core infrastructure, our roads specifically, by reducing that target 273. We reduced expenditures by $12.5 million over the 10-year period. One thing to note here, and it is included in the plan, is that if we were to receive external governmental, additional provincial or some level of government funding on that, the county would still aim to maintain that 75. And then for facilities and land improvements, we did reduce expenditures in a number of different areas slightly for a total net reduction of just over $10 million over the 10-year period. Now that still maintains our facilities with an FCI rating of fair. However, it just slightly reduces that. Instead of the mid to upper range of fair, we're more in the mid range of fair. So we go using these three strategies from 127 million over the 10-year period to 41.45 over the 10-year period. That balance of 41.45, we will propose to either be supported through an increase in asset management levy contribution over time, utilizing our debt for long-term assets, or further review of our level of service targets. And then that leads me into our asset management reserves. So reserves will form an important part of our overall financial strategy. We are recommending that we set up reserves specific to asset class and then further by department. The proposed reporting structure would be that we would report these reserves at the asset class level. So we'd have asset management reserve for core infrastructure, facilities and land improvement, fleet and heavy equipment, and other assets. Now, based on our current financial strategy, the table here shows what our preliminary asset management reserve contributions would be by asset class. You can see that $30 million of initial uncommitted reserve balances going in by asset class, and then the 2026 proposed asset management reserve contributions by asset class totaling almost $19 million. Now, one thing I do want to note here is that these are not new contributions. These are existing contributions that we are currently doing. However, they will specifically now be going into an asset management specific reserves, classified as asset management reserves and recorded and reported as asset management reserves. So that's everything I have for an overview and update on the 2025 asset management plan.
Thank you, Savannah. Appreciate that. GM Wilcox?
Thank you very much, Chair. If I could just conclude, I want to thank Savannah. It is very much a largely a finance-focused report and what our regulations are, but behind all of that is a large team that manages our assets. Savannah chairs the Asset Management Committee that spans the entire organization, and there's a huge focus in terms of maintaining our assets, and I want to thank all the teams that are connected to that and is now really utilizing our asset management software to really manage our assets in an effective way. Thank you.
Thank you, GM Wilcox. Comments and questions? I'll kick one off just to start. GM Wilcox or Leonard, I wonder if they could comment on the advantages of asset management in terms of multi-year budgeting and being able to look at the next 5 years and hopefully manage our tax rates and reduce fluctuations year over year. Is this something that we can look forward to in the future?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. Absolutely. With the implementation of the reserves that we're going to be put in place, that really does help us do that. So we've taken a look at, as Savannah showed, the 10-year view. And with that, we're trying to put in place what will maintain our reserves and be able to balance that out. So we've got some years that are higher, some years that are lower. So we looked at how much we really need. There's still a bit of a gap, so we're going to be trying to manage that. With that, we may be coming forward with an ask around the budget in terms of increase related to asset management, but that's it. I think it's in an imaginable point at this point in time. But the reserves will really allow us to have that look forward and really be able to budget effectively. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, GM Wilcox. Just thought it was a good point to get across. Comments, questions? Councillor Fryer, then Councillor Anderson, and Councillor Van Staveren. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Evans. Savannah, a very good presentation. It's a complicated and detailed situation that you're reviewing with us, and as Treasurer Wilcox has It's an excellent job from everything I see. I think the other benefit of this is this is being done at every municipality in every county in every region in Ontario. It's going to give us a basis to measure ourselves against others that we didn't have before, because we didn't have this kind of detail in regards to capital side of the costs and the operating side of the costs, for comparative reasons, but also for the taxpayer. One thing that I'm trying to work hard at is being able to show the taxpayer how much money is going into capital and how much of the tax rate is going into operating, and then why it's going into capital is to make sure the assets are taken care of in the future. So I think it's an excellent report. I think the way you've got it planned out is taking us in the right direction, and I look forward to when it's all in place and we can do the comparative work that's going to come out of this. So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Fryer. Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you. And through the chair, I appreciate the data. I am concerned on a couple fronts here. I do know we have to approve this before July 1st, so we have to do it here today. But I am concerned with the level of service comments about reducing levels of service. The province passed this legislation knowing full well that there is a deficiency in every municipality across Ontario with funding infrastructure and assets. So I don't think we should be looking at saying this is something that we need to fix overnight. It's something that the province put on us to show, and they need to understand that there is a deficiency in dollars coming from the province as well to help solve this problem alongside us, because we can't simply just look at this and say we're going to solve this by ourselves and going back to the taxpayer. So I'm not sold on the fact that we should be looking at dropping any levels of service in the county. If the province wanted us to make sure what we were doing was right, then we have that information at hand. We're going to continue on par, and the province needs to step up to help fund our infrastructure gap because we don't need to reduce our levels of service. And so I'm concerned that that's in the direction we're going. I do commend the asset management reserves on the next section for sure to better fund and better plan. But again, every municipality, and I think everyone in this room understands that we've all seen our asset management plans. There are gaps in every single one of them. And we have to be, to the point, going to the province and saying, if you wanted us to show us these gaps, where's the funding?
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Comments? GM Wilcox.
Thanks.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for those comments, Councillor Anderson. And I don't disagree in terms of concerns regarding that. We feel the staff recommendations came forward still will maintain our assets in a very good condition that will provide the service levels that our residents have come to expect. We don't feel that it's taking it too far in terms of that. To your point about the province and looking at that, and it goes to Councillor Fryer's point, with this now view, the province is going to be able to see in each municipality what the infrastructure deficit is. There is work that's going on through AMO right now that's going to help gather that up as well and do a further analysis. I would say it's very accurate for current assets. So when we start comparing ourselves to other municipalities regarding current assets, that will be a good one to look at and a telling sign. The growth component is a little bit harder because it depends on your assumptions of growth, your assumptions of servicing that, all of that. And those are very tough to compare from municipality to municipality. But at least for the current assets, and to your point, we are the order of government that owns more assets than any other order of government, yet our revenue tools are very limited. And so managing those are challenging. And that's what I hope through AMO we'll be able to advocate to the province and maybe even to the feds more in terms of maintaining those assets and getting funding. Thank you.
Thank you, GM Wilcox. And just point of information at upcoming AMO conference in August, hope to approve the final report. So for those of us that are there, I'm sure we'll be in attendance to learn more. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Van Staveren, please.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to these new specific classifications,
going down the road, if all of a sudden we find out that our reserves are accumulating in certain areas, will we be able to either A, readjust our allocation or pull money out of those classifications and put them in other ones? Because foreseeably we could build up reserves, extreme reserves in one and be deficit in another.
Through the chair,
Wilcox, please.
Through the chair, that would be a great problem to have. I hope we do, but absolutely. So as Savannah outlined, every 5 years we're to revisit this. So when we revisit that, we will revisit the reserve levels, we'll revisit the contribution to those, and we could rebalance at that point for sure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lebois, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Evans. I just wanted to raise the point, and maybe General Manager Elliott can help with the answer. However, in terms of levels of service, if we reduce them, what is the impact, or is there a minimum level of service for those assets that are prone to catastrophic failure, like bridges or water towers? So just putting that question out there to make sure that we don't end up in a kind of a situation that we don't want to be in because we can't move money around. Thank you.
So possibly a question about level of service with regards to capital assets.
Through the chair. To Councillor Lavoie, we certainly would never allow a level of service that would allow for our bridges or culverts to catastrophically fail. We would make sure that they were at an acceptable level. Dropping our PCR, our pavement condition index, it will result in a noticeable difference of the ride condition of a road. It wouldn't be our preference, but we understand the fiscal realities around this. So that will give us some flexibility in using the dollars that we have available. So it's certainly not going to be intolerable, but likely noticeable.
Councillor Lavoie, it's good. Sorry, General Manager Wilcox. Thank you.
Through the chair, just to note, and the reading is there at your leisure if you want to go through the entire report, but you'll see that it details a lot. We've given the averages across a huge category of assets, and looking at even the PCI, we can designate roads that are more heavily traveled than not and really focus on maintaining the service level of those as an example. In fleet, we look at where the assets are being used and if they're key. For example, we would never let a paramedic vehicle fall into a lower fare even range because they're so critical. So we do look at that down to the specific levels. This is aggregating an overall level. Thank you.
Great. Any further questions, comments? Savannah, thanks very much for your presentation. Thanks for your team. Thanks for everything you're doing. Appreciate your help. Good. Okay, the motion is that item CCW 2025-189 dated June 24th, 2025 regarding the updated County of Simcoe Asset Management Plan be received and that Schedule 1, the updated 2025 County of Simcoe Asset Management Plan be approved. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Fryer. Thank you very much. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Those opposed, if any? Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Again, thanks, Savannah. Appreciate that. Moving on to item 33.2, CCW 2025-190, Asset Management Reserves. General Manager Wilcox, anything you'd like to preface this with?
Sorry, Chair. So our Sustainable Operations Program update just provides a couple of key updates in a few different areas. So we have an annual reporting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Remember, there's two asset management.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the reserves. Sorry, I was going on to the next one.
So 33.2.
I got caught in a conversation with our CA. Sorry about that. So no, I think the asset management reserves report, as indicated, will allow us to manage our reserves across the time frame that we need. It allows us to put it in place so we'll be better, have better budgeting and be able to level off those kind of peaks and valleys. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Comments, questions on this item, Council? A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Cabral, seconded by Councillor Lavoie. Thank you very much. Motion is that item CCW 2025-190 dated June 24th, 2025 regarding asset management reserves be received and that the necessary bylaws presented to County Council substantially in the form of attached as Schedules 1 to 4 of this item to allow the county to set up asset management reserves as outlined in Schedule 5 of this item. Further questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 34.1, CCW 2025-131 Sustainable Operations Program Update. Again, GM Wilcox, anything you'd like to introduce this with?
Thank you very much, Chair. With us, we have Catherine Payne, who's the Manager of Procurement and Sustainable Operations, and Don Hippel, our Director of Procurement, Fleet and Property. Don, maybe you could give just a quick overview of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. And through the chair, we do have an annual requirement to report to the province on our energy usage for our facilities. And that table and graph are located in this report. We also are providing an update to council on our corporate climate action plan implementation. If you may recall, that plan was approved in the fall of 2023, and we have been working quite actively internally. We've created a number of working groups to meet the targets that are set out in that plan. And each working group has a work plan with very specific goals, and we are reporting on all those goals here today. This is a rather long report, but in essence, we are making progress, which is good news. It's a tough goal, but council set it and we're working very hard to meet it. So thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Kick it off. Just on the energy use index on your chart, 2022 went up and then down again. I'm just curious, was any direct reason why that happened? Just seemed kind of odd.
Through the chair, I can speak to that. So we do have a note, a couple of notes in the, and if you're referring to the table on page, or sorry, the graph on page 3, 20 to 22 reflected the impact of COVID. So the numbers are a little odd in that section. I will just note that these numbers are normalized for weather. So there is a clean overall picture of the usage. However, that one area does have a bit of a bump. So we show that in the graph.
Perfect, thank you. And should note as well that it continues to go down. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Comments, questions, council? Seeing none, can I move and seconder, please? Councillor Walker, thank you. Councillor Cox, seconding. Thank you very much. Motion is that item CCW 2025-131 dated June 24th, 2025 regarding the Sustainable Operations Program update be received, and that the County of Simcoe's 2024 energy consumption and greenhouse gas emission report, substantially in the form attached as Schedule 1 to item CCW 2025-131, be approved and posted to the county's website in compliance with Electricity Act 1998 requirements and Ontario Regulation 25/23. Further comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is carried. And thank you, ladies, for coming in today. Appreciate that.